Justin Marshall joins us, 81 Test veteran for the All Blacks. He was there on the sideline as the Blues just pulled their own pants down on Friday night. Marshy, I don't know whether you're watching the golf, but I don't want to take you away from it from too much. If you are you following this final round?
Yeah, I am actually, and it's getting very, very interesting, isn't it, Dev? So there's going to be plenty more action after I get off the phone to you, so we're all good.
All right, okay. The thing is, and you've been in many, many high-pressure situations. Take us to, right, I mean, is there one game of golf that stands out for you and a few mates or something, and Justin Marshall, who we know is clutch, has got a putt that you should sink and the demons start coming into your head and the voices start and the lads start talking Greg Norman to you. Do you manage it or do you collapse?
I'm a choker for sure. I could say that I was clutch in that sort of situation, but it's not a part of my game that if it came down to everything and the boys are giving you plenty of ribbing and the game is on it and the beers are on it in the clubhouse afterwards, I wouldn't want to be the one standing over that putt, that's for sure. And they know that as well.
Well, and this is what's so fascinating about this, isn't it? Because I was just saying before, put the money aside, it doesn't make any difference. Here you are playing for something. You are climbing Everest within one hole of golf. You know how to hit a golf ball, but it's all in the brain, isn't it?
It is indeed. Yeah, it's all about that ability to not think about the outcome, just to be present in the now and just keep your focus and continue to tick away and not worry about what's happening on the next hole or the next shot or whatever. Just stay in the moment. Okay,
well, let's draw the parallel then with what you witnessed on Friday night before we get into the naming of the All Blacks yesterday, which is always a glorious occasion, of course, for everyone that gets their name called. Friday night, the Crusaders went out there wanting to win the game. I thought the Blues turned up thinking they were playing a semi-final. What did you see?
Well, look, I just saw two completely different sides, really, and that wasn't what I was expecting. I thought at the very, very best the Crusaders would have to be to beat this Blues outfit, and even then I wasn't sure with the injuries that they had if the Blues turned up with the right attitude and were game on, whether or not the Crusaders would even still have the firepower. Their belief in the fact that they can win knockout football in finals time was the major factor that I think that was going to help them. But apart from that, it was going to be a tough old day. Well, it didn't prove to be that way. It completely surprised me. It threw me, to be honest. I thought the Crusaders started like a bull out of a gate, like you'd expect. But then I thought, righto, they've had their moment. There'll be a response from the Blues. They will get themselves back into this game somehow. But they never, ever fought themselves back into the game. Not either mentally, not physically, not skill set, not defensively. They were completely outplayed, outclassed. It was men against boys stuff.
And so much to come from that. Okay, I'm just looking at some really basic things here, like obviously contact, breakdown, desire, and I just thought the Blues looked completely unprepared. Justin, they knew this was coming. They played the final against the Crusaders last year, and the same thing happened, but this one was on roids. I mean, this is a Crusaders side that were going to smack them up in the first 5 minutes. And, I'm looking at that outside in defence, which you were explaining. We only got to see a couple of pictures of that. But surely when, you're in the back line, you've got enough experience there. If you're doing outside in defence, that means there's obviously a gap over there. There's some grass. Why don't you chip it? Why doesn't somebody do a 25-metre spiral? There's got to be some room out there somewhere. Why weren't they looking for it?
Well, absolutely. And I think probably the realisation of that hit me mostly, not only during the game, because I could see it when I was commentating on it and wondering why they were continually falling into the trap and they weren't responding, but massively when I spoke to Leon McDonald after the game, when I did ask him that question, and he just said everything that we were expecting the Crusaders to do, they did. Everything that we knew we'd have to respond to, we didn't. And he said, I can't put my finger on why not. No, mentally we knew they'd come at good body height. We knew they'd attack the breakdown. They'd play with tempo. They'd be aggressive on defence. We knew all of those things were coming at us. But the players, he didn't say it, but you could see him saying, we prepared for all of this. You as players have been given that preparation. Now when you're out there, you know that it's coming. You need to galvanise and you need to get it right out there, and you mentally need to be in the right space. And he couldn't understand it. You could see the look of bemusement on his face of, there's nothing there they threw at us we didn't know was coming, which goes back to the question you asked. So why did, with nine All Blacks in that team, been in World Cup finals, been in big matches, been in Rugby Championship and Bledisloe games, where everything is on the line, you've got to respond, and they didn't. And I don't know what's wrong with that group of players that went out there that day, but they were off. and they got up against a side that were on big time.
And you see, I then start looking at the All Blacks squad and the naming of that team to play Rugby Championship, and obviously a lot of these same names are going to be in the World Cup squad at the end of the year. That was an All Black trial to me. If that's not an All Black trial, I don't know what is, because playing the Force and the Rebels isn't. Playing a knockout semi-final against your major opponents in a must-win match, that's as close as you get to a test match, isn't it?
Absolutely it is. And you've got everything to prove to the All Black coach who was sitting in the stand and his other coaches to show that come big game time, you're ready to front, and you do front. You go out there, you lead, and you look at, conversely, the opposition, and you're opposite, and you make sure that you keep them controlled, you keep them contained, and they don't go out there and steal a possible shirt that you could start in later in the year for the All Blacks. And I certainly felt that when you looked at some of the performances of those Crusaders players that needed to stand up and front up in key positions, they all did. They were flawless in doing that, whereas, you know, it took, I guess, probably a bit of interchanging from the bench from Leon McDonald, probably in the last quarter of the match when Peter Feta came on, took a little bit of pressure off Barrett. They started to get a little bit more flow there. Clean got a bit better, but the game was way gone by then. The responsibility of looking after that game so that your bench then finish it off is up to that starting 15. And that starting 15 with that many All Blacks in it, you'd have to say, bloody not good enough, not acceptable.
No, it's and such a worry going forward from here, because it's not like the rest of the world isn't watching. Let's turn our attention then to Hamilton, a completely different game, and a Chiefs side that, you know, when you look at the last two performances against the Red and the Brumbies, isn't the same Chiefs side as we've seen throughout this competition. But how valuable that they're winning games and they're not playing particularly well right now going into a final?
Yep, I think I feel that there's a positive to that, but I also feel there's a negative. Yeah, and there's nothing like rhythm. Like, think about the body language, the mental state, the energy that Crusaders team is going to take in this week's training. Like, they will be literally on their toes all week, and why wouldn't they be? You know, and there's no doubt about the fact, I feel, that, you know, the Chiefs conversely won't be massively filled with confidence that their game plan is completely unflawed and that they are in great rhythm, because obviously they're not. They've been pushed, they've been made to fight. But in saying that, when they've needed to win, they've won. And that takes a lot sometimes, because they know the quality of the opposition that's coming to their doorstep at the weekend is used to being in that environment, is used to winning finals, and they will bring something. And they'll bring something pretty confrontational and pressure-orientated that they're going to have to cope with, and they have shown the ability to absorb all of that and still get the job done. So it's a bit of a mixture for me, Debs, to be honest.
Okay. Justin Marshall is with us, and we're talking about the Super Rugby semi-finals before we get on to the All Blacks. They kicked a lot of ball away. Do you think that was just circumstantial, given the fact it was pouring with rain, and so the tactic had changed for the Chiefs to go, okay, let's just whack it down your end and swim up in defence and maybe get you to commit an error, keeping the ball in hand and risking dropping the ball in greasy conditions, and that probably wouldn't have been such a great idea. Is that why they kicked so much away?
Yeah, I think they probably recognise that, you know, the Brumbies actually are a very good defensive side. And they've got good players that get over the ball. And if you play too much rugby in those conditions, where you've got to think a little bit about your collision into the contact more than you do on a dry day, and you play in the wrong areas, that can culminate in pressure and points. So I think they probably, to a degree, slightly basically made an adaptation to their game plan so that they played in better areas. Probably, when you think about the quality of player, but also the skill set they've got in their team, it doesn't suit them to kick too much ball away. It doesn't give them the kind of rhythm that they need to get their mojo going. But sometimes when you say, like, the conditions are what they are, you kind of have to go outside of the game that you would like to play normally.
Cracking final there, haven't we? Two great teams, and hopefully the weather's going to... I mean, I can't wait for this final. I really do. I mean, if you weren't talking about an All Black trial, well, this to me is it. These are the best players in the country on show.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it is really, when you looked at the top 8 or even midway through the season, the Crusaders probably not as much in rhythm as the Chiefs, but you thought, man, how good will the Chiefs-Crusaders final be? And I think we've seen that unfold in the quarterfinal, semi-finals, to the point we've got the dream final. It's so exciting.
All right, then, before we let you go, because they're just about to wrap this US Open up, final hole, McIlroy has closed out. He's -9. He parred the whole of the whole round. He finishes on even. And then Clark has simply got a par on the 18th, and he takes his first major. The All Blacks squad, would you have thought a bigger reflection may have been from the fact that the Blues played so badly that would have actually affected the All Blacks selections?
No. I don't think that any player had anything to lose leading into the last round. There wouldn't have been, if any, many positions only debatably through injury that were up for grabs. I think they had their squad already sorted. They're not going to be on a Saturday night making decisions on 5 or 6 players. I think what players had to lose was, where they're seen in the picture once they're in that squad, and how they adapt under pressure and how they play and perform when everything's on the line. And I think I go back to the point that you made, did a few players not step up? And without doubt they didn't. And other players probably made ground in terms of getting that first test start because of their performance.
Always appreciate your time, mate. Great chatting to you. As always, I'll let you go back to the golf. Thanks, Marshy.
Thanks, Steve. Pleasure talking to you as well. Cheers,
Justin
mate.
Marshall with us, 81 test for the All Blacks. Sideline there, he was at Christchurch.